thanks, David, for joining Hydrogen in Free. Obviously, it's a pleasure to have you take part, and we've been speaking to different executives globally. Obviously, this is a super interesting one for us, getting an investment-backed opinion, I would say. A lot of people will definitely know who you are and what you do, but just for the purpose of the video and interview, do you mind giving a brief overview of who you are and what you do? I think that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, George. So my name is David Wu. I'm based here in Singapore, and I'm the president and co-founder of the Ascent Hydrogen Fund. We are actually a larger energy transition fund, and we look at several different strategies, but in particular, of one that's been taking up a lot of time has been the Ascent Hyzon Fund, where we have been looking at private investments at the kind of round A, round B level, looking for exciting technologies that are going to make a big difference in the kind of the future of the hydrogen economy. We have a couple of notable investments, I guess, that people know us for, such as Hyzon Motors and Raven SR, as well as some gold hydrogen companies, and as well as some hydrogen aviation companies. So we tend to take quite a hands-on approach with the companies that we work with, and we're very happy to be here today.
Oh, fantastic. So that's where I wanted to start with first, I would say. Obviously, you're very well embedded in the hydrogen sector. As you said, you're looking for different opportunities and different businesses that are going to take the sector to that next level. Obviously, there is a lot of hype regarding the sector, but what role do you see in hydrogen itself in terms of reaching our global net zero targets, would you say?
Yeah, so we've always approached the use of hydrogen from the perspective that we all came from energy backgrounds, and we could see that there was a transition, both at the engineering side, but also at the capital financial side. And so this was happening, and it was kind of going into energy transition of different forms of energy. For hydrogen, it does make a lot of sense. But I think we can make kind of some more specific predictions. We have some more predictions about it, right? So first of all, we always had a theory that there was going to be an oil crisis. We hadn't factored in a war into our theory, but we had factored that the amount of capex cuts in the oil and gas industry was going to spike the oil price, and that itself would actually accelerate the move away from fossil fuels from an economic perspective, not just a climate change perspective. And so we always knew, or had a theory, that an oil crisis was imminent.
Yeah,
it's been accelerated with the war, but we've always said that was going to be imminent, and there was going to be a search for alternative, more economical fuels. So from that perspective, we then have formed our other views, which is we take a slightly different view to which hydrogen is the best. Like, is it blue? Is it green? Is it gold? Is it turquoise? For us, it's about which is the most readily available to market. And so whilst there's a great academic discussion on, yes, it's great to have green hydrogen with water in, water out, we think the reality is it's going to be hydrogen that is produced the first. So, the path of least resistance is the path that's going to win, and be that blue or green or wherever it's going to be produced, that's going to be the winning hydrogen to begin with. Over time, as technology improves, I think we'll see, kind of better forms of electrolyzed hydrogen, for example. The other theory we have is we think hydrogen being used first in mobility, and the reason for that is because it has a clear fuel that it can subsidize and substitute out, such as diesel fuel or jet fuel. And so we're seeing it already, that a lot of the adoption of hydrogen is in heavy commercial vehicles, trucks, buses. We're seeing it, being explored quite heavily in aviation, in trams and trains, and a lot of that, I think, is to do with the fact that there is an obvious substitute that's going to take place. So I think, hydrogen will take it. Will in summary to a question, I think yes, definitely has a huge role in the kind of pathway to zero carbon. I don't think it's going to just suddenly take over as the fuel of the future. I think it will come in terms of how it's produced based on the path of least resistance. And so adoption will take different ways. and then it will start in mobility.
I think that sort of rolls into the next question I had. Obviously, there's been major investments which Ascent Hydrogen Fund play a big role in as well. There's partnerships like Hyzon, Plug Power and Renault. We've got MOUs developing as well. There is a lot of positive aspects of the hydrogen sector, but is there clear challenges that you see that we do need to come over as a sector over the sort of next year and beyond, would you say?
Yeah, I think everyone knows, like back in 2000, there was already a bit of a hype cycle with hydrogen, and obviously that went away. There's awareness that there was another hype cycle. I think it wasn't even 2021. I think by 2020, if you had invested in a hydrogen stock, be it Plug, be it Ballard, be it Bloom, you would have made multiples on that year. I think the other thing that kind of happened was the SPAC market, right? And the market was so rife with so many abilities for, the ability for companies to just really achieve quite a high valuation quite quickly. That's all kind of gone away now. Yeah. And so in a way it's good because, I think people look at deals again in a more fundamental manner, which is how we've always, approached transactions. Yeah. I think there's less of a, it could be worth this, more, well, okay, so what is happening now with the company? There is a lot more pipeline, that's for sure, right? So when we first started looking at deals, most of the deals would be coming out of Europe that we were seeing, and this continues to be the case, a very high pipeline of deals come out of Europe. However, we're based in the US and Asia, and so we've tended to focus where there's less people and less busy deals, and we think there's a growing portion of pipeline there as well. Again, for us, I'm not focused on which color is best. Yeah. So when we look at deals, we look at companies that aren't 5 years away from turning that technology into cash flow. We're looking at companies that often have a technology that they've developed over decades, yet they've just tweaked it, and now they're able to convert that for whether it's hydrogen production or even valves for compressors. And so we see a lot more deals. I think we've got to be a bit more picky these days. Yeah. There's a lot more deals that come about because there were such crazy valuations in the last couple of years, and so we have to shift through some of the not so good ones to search for those good ones. But no, I think it's also good to see other investment companies now coming in. So always good to work and share ideas and share commentaries and with fellow investors. Yeah. And we've been working with large and small companies throughout the industry.
That we have obviously more based around you and sort of what Ascent funds are going to do in terms of developing the hydrogen value chain moving forward. Where do you see Ascent funds fitting and playing in terms of the value chain, would you say?
So I think one particular new theme that has become very topical, which we've always thought about but never really thought about it in this particular extreme, is the decentralization of energy supply and to be independent from, be it Russian gas or a pipeline that's on the other side of the world. And so with all the craziness that's kind of going on, obviously that's become a huge focal point. Now for us, we've always taken the opinion that hydrogen can be produced in many, many ways and can be produced from many, many different sources. Yeah. And so it's the most abundant element on the earth. Yes, it's hard to capture, but you can produce it. And so for us, we've always focused particularly on localized hydrogen production. I don't think we're not to say that electrolysis out of Australia being shipped to Northern Asia won't work, but I think there's a quick path, like I said before. The path to least resistance is if you could make hydrogen down the road, you'd probably buy that hydrogen down the road, right? And so for us, that the solution is often waste, and the reason for that is, as I mentioned, mobility will be the first sector to adopt hydrogen. Mobility and heavy fleets tend to exist in cities where they also have another problem of waste disposal. and we've been looking at various different waste to fuel technologies, which has been around for a while, and there's various different ways of converting waste to fuels. But one of them has been a company called Raven, which you may have read about, and we find that very exciting. There's been a lot of attention on Raven recently. They're about to commission their first line in Northern California, and part of the interest is because they are able to produce, be it hydrogen or sustainable aviation fuel or biodiesel, locally without any necessary imported natural gas or use of the electric grid. They're able to do it off-grid, independent, and they can manage that cost, and therefore it's becoming very, very exciting. And I think that is going to be an increasingly important theme for many people that are in this space. I read an article today that electrolysis, which has always been deemed as far more expensive, green hydrogen, more expensive than grey hydrogen, is now starting to get comparable in some markets where if you're having to buy natural gas, I think it's like $600 equivalent in Europe and for some places, where electrolysis starts to become economical. All of this is moot because at the end of the day, paying $20 at the pump or $25 at the pump for a kilo of hydrogen is still very expensive. Whereas if you're able to produce it yourself, and with it agnostic of what's going on as much as possible, will be a very important theme for this year and hopefully going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I had the same chat with Giorgio from Hydrogen Europe quite recently, and ultimately it does come down to cost, doesn't it? We need to make it in a efficient manner, in a way that's accessible to everyone and makes it competitive with the other markets that we have out there. So no, I definitely agree with you on that one. And just to finalize things, obviously, David, do really appreciate you jumping on and giving your insight. And obviously, we're wishing you the best for 2022. I know you've got a lot of exciting announcements upcoming, so I'll let you give those yourself through the year. But no, really appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, George. And I think we're all in this together. So let's all make this work together.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, David.